So my name is Darryl Jones. I am a professor of English at Trinity College Dublin, and I'm a literary scholar of the late Victorian and Edwardian periods, and primarily a textual editor. And what I'm mostly interested in is working on editions of Victorian and Edwardian ghost stories, horror stories, supernatural tales, and genre fiction more generally. So I started off this particular phase of my research working on the collected ghost stories of M.R. James, for example, and most recently I've produced an edition of the Gothic tales of Arthur Conan Doyle.
So when and how in your career, obviously within this literary period, did your research turn to the occult side of things?
Well, I've always been interested in. I mean, I see them as a series of overlapping fields and practices, of forms of rejected knowledge within the academy, by which I mean extra canonical texts, books that are not generally taught, forms of excluded or forbidden knowledge. Which includes various kinds of genre fiction, and various kinds, as I said, of supernatural fiction, and so I see these kinds of things as overlapping. And some years ago, I found myself writing a history of horror fiction and horror films, and one of the subjects that I got very interested in doing that was the whole issue of the occult. And of its relations with in popular culture with satanic practices of various kinds, with black masses, which took me to one of my current interests, which is in I think the leading popular writer of the 20th century, who combines all of these interests, which is Dennis Wheatley, who was a massive bestseller in the middle decades of the 20th century, from the 30s through to the 70s. He sold 50 million copies of his books. They packed out the shelves of public libraries, most particularly up and down the land, up and down the United Kingdom anyway. And coming as I did from a working class background in industrial South Wales, I know that most homes, even when they had few or no books, they seemed to have copies of the Pan books of horror stories is one thing, and at least one Dennis Wheatley. And the Wheatley books fascinated me because they tended to have extraordinarily lurid and suggestive covers, which generally promised a good deal more than the novels themselves delivered, I have to say. But I think this was part of their allure, that there was something forbidden, something adult about them.
Thanks. So a workshop is part of the AHRC networking scheme, and that scheme is premised around this idea of breaking down boundaries. We're wondering what you think about the occult as being particularly suited for that task, as being a field which allows people to break boundaries between different kinds of beliefs or forms of culture or identities in this period.
Well, in its popular form, I think one of the boundaries that it breaks down are boundaries of class, and I sometimes think that the appeal of a writer like Wheatley is that he provides a vicarious experience of the other end of the class system to a large working class readership, in pretty much exactly the way that George Orwell accounts for the school story in his essay Boys' Weeklies. These were consumed in great numbers by young working class boys, although they are tales of upper class boarding school life. I think there's an element of aristocratic culture about that was purveyed in these works of kind of pulp Satanism, that's very important. I think also, and more generally, the racial boundaries tend to get broken down. Again, to use an example from Wheatley himself, through his interest in the occult, he, as the son of a London wine merchant, a public school educated product of the British Empire, became close in ways that he would not otherwise have done, could not otherwise have done, I think, with the West Indian yogi Rao Ahmed, author of the Black Art, which was a work which Wheatley claimed at least to have helped to bring to publication. So I think it was a way in which kind of ethnic barriers could be broken down, and you can see this for example in India and in the relationship of theosophists. Now I know theosophists and occultists are, again, they're overlapping, but not they don't necessarily equate to one another. But I was in Mumbai just within the last week or two, and one of the major thoroughfares of Mumbai is Annie Besant Street. And common cause was made between theosophy on the one hand and burgeoning Indian nationalism on the other, and I think in part it was because of an identification of these forms of excluded or rejected or minoritarian identities.
Great. So I think in some ways you've answered this when we've been talking, but I'm interested in how you see the relationship between these two things. So my question on the one hand is, can the occult ever really be popular? If we think about the occult as referring to that which is hidden and, as you say, minority, a secret, how do those two seemingly contradictory things come together?
I think because it's ripe for packaging and exploitation within mass culture, and I think really exploitation is what we're talking about here. It's ripe for sensationalizing. It's a classic kind of folk devil around which moral panics can be constructed. So this is I think there's a good deal of interest and it can be exploited, and it's there as a staple, often not necessarily examined in any depth or with any real sophistication, but it's there as a staple in genre fiction. Aimed at a large readership from the very beginning, from the explosion of periodical genre fiction in the 1890s onwards. These figures of occultists, of yogis, are quite often there in these stories, sometimes in the middle distance, or as supporting figures, or so you can. I think the connection has been, the interest is there from the beginning, and I think because it's ripe for exploitation. And there is something, the very paraphernalia of occultism, its fondness for ritual, for costume, is ripe. It borders so closely often on a kind of silliness that it's ripe for exploitation, I think.
Great, thanks. In your own research in this area, are there particular resources or archives or even artworks that have been inspiring to you and or that you've used in your research?
I think the best way to answer this is through my interest in M.R. James. whose own work is intimately connected, his fiction is intimately connected to, and is in some ways a byproduct of his own magisterial scholarly work in, archivism, manuscript studies, and the like. So to intellectually to follow in James's footsteps, which led me to the libraries of the institutions with which he was most closely associated, King's College Library, in which I spent a good deal of time, and Eton College Library also. And these are places where many of his own original manuscripts are, for example. But also, to dig out references that he himself makes. For example, to find out what's in the actual Harley manuscript that's referred to in Casting the Runes, and to follow in his own footsteps. I found myself in the Romanesque cathedral of Saint-Bertrand de Comminges, or high in the foothills of the Pyrenees, which is where the demon of Canon Alberic's scrapbook, James's first tale, is summoned, and so I think it's important to get as close as you can to the material stuff of your subject.
Great, and I have to ask a follow-up. I didn't know that the manuscript in Casting the Runes was real. So what is in it?
Oh God, what is in it? I can find out by tomorrow.
We'll leave that one out. Sorry, that was a trick question.
No, I did look it up.
But that is, I didn't know that it was real.
Yes,
I thought it was a kind of fabrication.
No.
James, he knows his stuff.
I have a footnote on this very subject.
I know. As soon as it's in a footnote, you're like, great. Okay, I have a final question, and that is sort of about our current occultural moment, and that is, why should we study the occulture now? And does this type of material, which you described, I think accurately, as being for a long time rejected knowledge, does it have a place in the university?
I definitely has a place in the university, and viewed from the outside, the practices of the university and the practices of occult secret societies and occult societies are not dramatically different. An academic gown and the robes of the Order of the Golden Dawn are recognisably the same kind of garmentry. So the same kinds of rituals and practices govern universities and govern occult societies. So I don't think we should be too proud about this. Those of us who work in universities, but I also think that getting back to the idea of rejected knowledge, that it behoves us to take very seriously, in this year of all years, these ideas when the entire Western political structure has been shaken by democratic elections, which rested to a very large extent on a complete refusal of majoritarian mainstream knowledge and expertise. The very idea of the expert is apparently something which has been great doubt has been cast on. Experts are no longer trusted, and what this means is that we seem to be in a world where there is a free play of often wacky ideas, many of them competing for our attention and for relevance. And this is the year in which the Oxford English Dictionary's word of the year is post-truth. So we're post-truth, we're post-enlightenment, we're post-rational materialist, it seems. And I think it behoves us to pay close attention to all of this.